and welcome to beautiful South Sligo. My name is Lou. I'm with Europe Direct in Sligo, and I'm joined today by Michael Bell, nature educator, all-round wonderful human being and treasure trove of information about all things nature. Thanks so much for joining me, Michael.
Well, thanks very much. Very happy to be here. So I must have written that script for you. But yeah, I've always loved nature. It's never was a job or something I studied growing up. It was just a hobby. And then in more recent years, I've kind of been lucky enough to get in nature-related work, doing a lot of nature education in schools and stuff like that too. And it is a great thing for children to get interested in nature. I mean, if you do, you're never going to get bored. There's always something to learn. I learn something every day when I'm outside. And as I say, it's get you out of the house, get you away from computer screens.
100%, Michael, and that is exactly why we're here today. We have a great idea for you guys for the summer, a very cool hobby, something a little bit different, and something that ties in with the conversation that's happening all across Europe at the moment about the Green Deal. This is the European Union's plan to try and support our environment, because of course our pollinators and our biodiversity are really, really important and they're in decline. So our idea is that you can become a citizen scientist. You can go out on your walk, because let's face it, we're all walking a lot more than we used to, and we're probably going to be here during the summer. And when you go out, you can look and see what different kinds of wildflowers and pollinators, so that can be like bees and moths and different kinds, and we'll talk about those later. And you can record them on biodiversity.ie, and we're going to run a really cool competition as well and give away macro lenses that you can put onto your camera on your phone.
I want one of those.
Yeah, I know, me too. And then you can take even better close-ups. So we'll give you a bit more detail about that later. But Michael, I wonder if you could tell us then a little bit about pollinators and biodiversity and why they're so important.
Well, I mean, biodiversity, it's just all the life around us, and we're part of biodiversity. We're alive ourselves. So, and the pollinators are particularly important. You know, without them doing the work of pollinating plants, we wouldn't have lots of the wonderful wildflowers we have around us. Lots of the food we eat depends on pollinators too, the fruit and strawberries, apples, things like that too. So pollinators, they are very important. And not just bees, I should say, wasps are important pollinators, hoverflies, butterflies and moths too. So lots of little small...
Wasps do something, Michael?
Yeah, wasps, they are kind of, they do feed and pollen, and when they're doing that, they'll pollinate plants too, so they are important. And they also help keep other insects and control the numbers of them too. So everything in nature has a role to play, you know, it's there for a reason. And it's like nature consists of lots of little building blocks that are all connected together, and we're part of it too. We're connected into that as well.
So we're going to have a little walk together along this beautiful South Sligo country line. But guys, the wildflowers are everywhere and anywhere. Like wherever there is a chance, nature will give us wildflowers. And some of what we'll see, you will spot in your local areas, and some of it you may have to come a little bit further afield for. But it's just so much fun to get used to an area and watch what's growing. So we'll have a look at some of the lovely things that are here and share with the guys at home what we find.
Yeah, that is important. I mean, nature is everywhere. It can be in your back garden. You don't have to go to a national park somewhere to appreciate it. And you know, learning your own little patch really gives you insight into how all the nature's connected and how it changes through the different seasons too. And you can become an expert in a fairly short time on your own little patch. It doesn't take long. So.
Michael, we'll start with some simple ones. I think most people will recognise these guys, but will you tell us a little bit about them?
Well, everybody knows the dandelion, but I should tell you there's actually about 50 different species of dandelions, but we just lump them all together and you can just record them as dandelion. Okay. First thing to notice why they're called dandelion, I'm just going to take the leaf of one of them here.
Dandelion.
And it looks like, yeah, a lion's mouth. So a little bit of French, dandelion, dandelion is where the name comes from. And most people just think of these as weeds, but we really need to get away from thinking like that. Dandelions are actually very, very important, particularly for bumblebees early in the year. They're one of the first flowers to come out. You see them in masses. And actually queen bumblebees, they'll hibernate for the winter. The queen, she'll wake up, usually around March, she'll be really hungry. And dandelions are a really, really important source of food for bumblebees at that time of year. And not just bumblebees, hoverflies, other insects will depend on food, particularly early in the season. It's a very important flower. Yeah. So in our gardens at home, if we can get an idea of maybe putting off cutting the grass for a little while, let the dandelions flower before you cut the grass, and then when they start to go to seed, if you want to have a lawn, you can cut it that time of year, because it is very, very important food, as I say, particularly for bumblebees early in the year.
Yeah. Like there's just nothing like that at the start of spring. The bright green, bright yellow, bright blue sky when you're lucky. It's such a gorgeous combination. And Michael, is there any point in our intrepid recorders recording dandelions, because they seem so everywhere?
Well, you know, you can just get in the habit of recording everything in your little patch of woods or whatever patch of garden. Just record everything you see. I say you'll be limited when you start if you're just beginning and what you'll recognise and know, so stick to the things you know. Okay, I just see a very important plant here. This is ivy, which is another one that sometimes gets a bad reputation, but it's very, very beneficial for wildlife. It's unusual in when it produces berries. We've lots of hawthorn along here and blackthorn that are producing berries for birds in the autumn time. But the ivy actually produces its berries this time of year, so it's a very important food for the thrushes, blackbirds, other thrushes this time of year. It'll be the only berries they have to eat. It provides lots of cover for wildlife too. And then the other useful thing is it has the berries this time of year. It actually has the flowers at the end of the year. In the autumn time going into the early winter, it'll be covered lots and lots of little white flowers. And if you were to stand here and maybe November on a sunny day and look up, you would just see a mass of little hoverflies and other flies just feeding from the ivy flowers. So again, just like the dandelions were very important in the springtime for insects, the ivy is really essential for insects late in the year. Very, very important food source. So
people get worried about ivy because it sort of feels like it takes over the tree, or it might hurt the tree or whatever. How do you feel about that?
You know, generally in a woodland or along a hedge like this, it's a healthy tree. It's not going to bother a healthy tree. Maybe if a tree is old and the wind catches it, it might bring it down. It can be a problem certainly in old buildings. You know, getting into the stonework, it will be a problem there, and it's a lot of expense in removing it from situations like that, from old abbeys and things. But just along, you know, a hedgerow like this, it's no problem at all. And as I said, it's actually very, very beneficial to nature too.
They're all made for each other out here, really. Like, it's all interconnected. Yeah, so what do we have here, Michael?
Well, this is the marsh marigold, one of my favourite flowers. Beautiful. They're always growing in wet, damp areas. You very often get your feet wet when you go to look for them. Would be, member of the buttercup family. It's like a big, big buttercup.
They're so bright.
Yeah, very, very bright. Yeah. But yeah, the lesser celandine can carpet along the road verges, even early in the year. Sometimes it'll be out in February.
They're one of the very first yellow flowers.
And it's just about going over now. We're finished with the lesser celandine for the year.
These guys will be out for another few weeks, and the pads just keep getting bigger and bigger.
Yeah, they won't be out too much longer, you know, but they will be out for a while yet, for sure.
And you were saying about the white flowers. I think, I don't know the name of those little guys.
Cuckoo flower, some people call cuckoo flower, or lady smock. And that's a particularly important flower for the orange-tipped butterfly. They depend on that, they lay their eggs on that plant. Very often if you look this time of year, you look just below the flower head, you see a little orange dot there, and that'll be the egg from the orange-tipped butterfly.
Wow.
Usually just one, they lay one per flower. Occasionally you might get two, or even three, but not too many because they can turn cannibalistic and start to eat each other if there's too many of them.
Nature is fascinating.
Yeah, but so without that flower we wouldn't have the orange-tipped butterflies. And
are orange-tipped butterflies pollinators as well? Because I know some moths and some other insects, it's not just bees.
Yeah, not just bees, even wasps are pollinators, a lot of them too, and hoverflies, certainly butterflies and moths. And some of our more showy flowers, like the orchids we get, which we get growing along roadsides too, they'll depend on moths for pollination. They very often have the nectar at the end of the flower, and the moths have the long proboscis, are able to reach down and get the nectar, so obviously they're attracting the moths to pollinate those particular plants too. So.
And why is that important for us for food? You know, we're talking about wildflowers here, and obviously us recording wildflowers helps, but what's the connection then between the pollinators that are here and the pollinators with our food? Like, why is that important?
Well, certainly our fruit trees and things need pollinators too to pollinate them. And to me, you know, I think we need to just get away from the idea. I think what's nature important to us, we need just to appreciate it for what it is. You know, it's part of what we are, what our people have grown up with in the past. You know, it's part of everything.
And I think that's one of the nice things about, like what you were saying about following along over a season, and that's why I'd really love to encourage you guys to do this as well. If you spend a little bit of time with them, it's a kind of a slow, gentle sort of a thing, but it reveals itself to you when you show up for it, and that kind of beauty is really nourishing as well. Like, it goes beyond just practical things of food or whatever. It's actually good for your heart to just look at gorgeous flowers and beautiful nature.
Yeah, anytime I get outside and just in an area like this, you're just totally relaxed. You get absorbed in what you're looking at, and you know, it just cuts off all the troubles of the world.
So, of course, we couldn't have talked about pollinators and wildflowers and not addressed the sort of hot topic of, but what could I do in my own garden, and how can I do something in my own garden? So we had to come to my garden because God bless it. So I haven't been here very long, and what I would like to do is to help the pollinators and make it be a little bit of a wild garden. So Michael, what do I do? Where do I start?
The good thing about when you're kind of gardening to help nature, you actually probably end up doing a lot less. You know, a lot of people would see this and they would put down paving, or they might put down a nice lawn, you know, but, you know, that's obviously going to be very little use to nature and pollinators. So to me, I mean, it looks like a little bit of a, you know, neglected wild area, but that's where you find a lot of nature in there. And so I wouldn't do a whole lot to it really. You would need to keep it trimmed, you know, every once in a while, otherwise it will kind of get out of hand with briars and things. But you could just trim it, certainly at the end of the growing season, but depending on how it goes, you might need to trim it, you know, once or twice throughout the year, a couple of times through the year. Okay. And just see how it goes. But just see what comes up. To me, that's a lot better. A lot of people too would get wildflower seed and plant it in there, but to me, just kind of letting nature take its course, and you'll be getting the kind of flowers, we just call them weeds, but they're, you know, they'll be coming up on their own. Wildflower is, over time, if you manage it right, it'll improve for wildflowers. So you will need to trim it every so often. Every time you trim it, you will want to take the clippings off it to keep the nutrients in the soil low, because the more that gets, the more the grasses go. So you really want kind of nutrient poor conditions, and then the wildflowers get more of a chance to show themselves. So.
And the fact that there's the plastic down here, should I take the plastic up?
I wouldn't put plastic down, you know, but the fact that it's already there, I think I'd probably just leave it for now and see how you like it, see how it goes. You could try taking a strip of it up and seeing, you know, how the different effect that has on it too.
Sure. And if I wanted to pretty things up by having some like plants in tubs, or if I wanted to make borders or whatever, are there particular types of plants that we should use for pollinators that are like really yummy for them or help them in a different way?
The Oregon, the National Biodiversity Data Center, and their website, they have a really good guide to helping pollinators. And all there, it has lots of pollinator friendly plants for planting in tubs. And you could plant a few little shrubs in the corners. Things like lavender is easy to grow, and it's really good for bees and pollinators and stuff like that.
It's so beautiful under your pillow.
Yeah, they'll be covered in bees late in the summer. So you could certainly round the edges, so you could plant a row of shrubs around the edge of lavender, maybe even a little buddleia. I don't know, this garden's kind of small. If you had room for like a small variety, fruit tree would be really useful too. A little crab apple tree, something like that would be nice too. So.
What about pesticides and things like that? Like, you know.
Well, again, you know, that's pretty much a no-no if you're wanting to have a garden for pollinators and nature. You know, you'll just have to keep an eye on things. If it looks like it's getting too overgrown, just I'd trim it real good and stuff, and just keep managing it that way. I
probably just need to maybe have a little chat with my neighbours and explain that I haven't just completely decided to give up. But I really like the idea, because it's really important that we keep the food there for the pollinators.
And you know, if you want to keep it kind of neat around the edges, you know, then it looks more like, you know, it's a wildlife garden rather than just being abandoned. Yeah.
So thank you so much, Michael, for coming and helping me with the wild garden. Yeah, look, we'll get there, I suppose, over time, and we'll do some experimenting, and it'll be interesting to see what happens. And I hope that inspires everybody at home as well to join in. Thanks so much for joining us, and we'll leave a little video now, I think, for you to show you how to record on biodiversity.ie and a little bit more about those amazing prizes. So thanks so much, guys. Bye.
Bye.
Okay, gang, so here is the really exciting bit. I'm going to show you how to record your findings on biodiversity.ie, and I'm going to tell you how to enter our competition so that you can win one of these amazing cool lenses so that you can take incredible pictures like this. So cool. Okay, so to record things on biodiversity.ie, go to the search engine of your choice, pop in biodiversity, and lo and behold, biodiversityireland.ie comes up. So much amazing information on this site, but where we're heading to record what we found is submit sightings. So if you're small, get mum or dad or your guardian to give you a hand. If you're big, this is the bit here to click, and then we just need to give it a second to load because there's so much information here. It is fascinating. Now, it's broken down into different categories, and of course we're going to be recording our gorgeous flowers. So I've clicked on flowers, and I'm going to pop in my name, my email, the date that I found the record, the county, the location, so the town and our nearest village, spatial reference, easier than it seems, just click on the map, and then observation detail, species name, put up your little photo and your additional information. Now, there are some great groups and some fabulous books, and of course the library is here for you to help you with that, and I'll pop some resources into the text underneath this video for you guys to help you with naming what you found basically before you send it in, so don't worry about that. Some more information about pollinators, you can have a quick look at the All Ireland Pollinators Plan on the National Biodiversity Data Centre website as well. There is great info in here, particularly around those gardens, like what we were talking about keeping an area
to help feed the pollinators. And also it is very much worth checking out Pollinators Europe. There's a great page here, ec.europa.eu, nature, everything that's happening in relation to pollinators in your area, and all about the EU Pollinators Initiative, which of course is an aspect of the Green Deal, which is Europe working to help us with the environment.
So, how do I enter the competition, I hear you ask? Well, it's so simple. You've got two ways. You can send in a photograph of the wildflower or the pollinator that you're going to register on biodiversity.ie to Europe Direct at sligococo.ie. Or you can, if you have a Facebook account, or if Mum or Dad or your guardian are happy for you to do so, you can post your photo on Facebook and tag us at Europe Direct Sligo. And then you'll also be added into the competition. And you can actually do both if you want 2 entries. So yeah, okay, I wish you all the best of luck. I can't wait to see all those incredible flower photos, and I'm really looking forward to being able to give out these wonderful prizes to help you to discover the joy that is paying attention to the beautiful wildflowers in our environment and supporting our pollinators. So thanks everybody so much, and cheerio.